Well, hello again. I probably won't be able to do a lot of work all at once. It'll be in short spurts. The temperature down here is beginning to get really cold by southern standards, and it's hard to stay in this garage for very long, especially when you're crawling around on the floor. I have a neighbor that works with older folks, senior citizens, at the hospital, and she said that 90% of the older folks that come in down there now, right now, are coming in with pneumonia. Yeah, that was the last thing I needed to hear. You can die from that stuff at our age, at my age. So I'll be just doing spurts at a time, and it'll slow things down again. Which reminds me, I'm beginning to get a few snivellers and whiners about how slow the project is going on this car. Well, I told you from the beginning. I'm going to repeat it again. This is a detailed, slow, take your time. If it gets done, fine. If it doesn't get done, fine. That's the whole attitude behind it. I'm going to do it detail by detail. Some of you folks are looking for faster things. I understand that. I don't have any problem with that, okay? Just unsubscribe and go look at those videos. Dylan McCool, he does things, in not a very, very tiny little detail type of thing like I do. Neither does Jonathan W. He also, he kind of takes it in chunks. And he doesn't give detailed explanations on everything like I do because, the purpose of their videos are different than this one. This series is for the guy that wants to know all the little details of everything. And I don't have any problem providing it. I like doing that. So if you don't like that, go somewhere else. I'm not here to build up a subscriber count. That's the last thing in my mind. Don't care. If I have 10, I'm happy. If I have 10,000, I'm happy. It makes no difference. I don't even know what my subscribers level is right now. I haven't checked it for a while. Doesn't matter. I just want people who are interested in this sort of thing and want to stick around. And if it gets to the point that you're no longer interested, see you later. There was I'm the same way. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm saying that I am the same way. There's I can't remember what channel it is right now. He was rebuilding a burned out Hellcat, and it was going along great. Man, I said, "Wow, this is a great series. This guy's rebuilding this thing." And then he brought in what I consider to be a good Hellcat to repair, and tore it apart to repair and restore the burned out Hellcat. I said, "What? What kind of crap is that? You destroy one to fix another?" I said, no, that was it. I unsubscribed right there. I lost interest. So I understand what you're talking about, So that's why I say, if I'm going too slow, driving you nuts, unsubscribe, go elsewhere. Not a problem, okay? No hard feelings. I'm glad you stuck around as long as you did. Today, what we're going to do is I'm going to put that kickdown lever on. I've got the top taped on right here with some tape, and just so it won't fall. And I'm going to try to, hopefully I got it in the right spot. I got to go down and try to hook it on the transmission. If I don't have it in the right spot, I'll have to come back up and wiggle it around again until I can get it down there and get a C-clip on it, or E-clip, which I have right here. I bought some new ones the other day at the hardware store. You always buy more than what you need on these because you lose them. They go down in the engine. You have no idea where they're at. You'll never find them. They'll eventually fall off in the road somewhere. All right, let's go underneath, and then before I do, what I want to do is take the gas line. I want to take these, let me see, I thought I had it laying around here. What did I do with it? Yeah, here it is. I want to take this polyarmor gas line, cut the end of it off, and show you a few things on that. And hopefully, before it gets too cold, I want to bend it in the shape it needs to be in accordance with, sorry to walk you all around the garage here, but that's the way it goes. I want to bend it in the shape that you see right here on this photo that I printed out from provided by one of our good subscribers. I'm going to bend it in that shape there and get it good to go. Hopefully. If not, well, we'll just keep at it until we get it right. Let's go into the car. Now here's the gas line and the brake line coming from the rear of the car. And as you can see right here, this little short piece right here, I'm going to have to replace this, I think. I think I have enough line in the fitting. If the fitting is the right one for this coupler, this coupler right here, I don't know, but you can see where it's rusted. It's got to come out, and I don't know. They replaced this gas line and this brake line at some point in the past. They may have done it with metric or SAE, standard SAE threads? I don't know. I've got to find out. That's been a real problem on this car. They started out with metric on one end. They said, well, we're going to have to use it all the way through. And then later on, a guy like me comes along and he's expecting American threads, and it's just not going to work. So that could wind up being a bigger project than expected. The bottom part of the kickdown rod is on the transmission now. And to show you how this thing works, you just don't want to, try to connect it up any old way. The way it's supposed to be done is you're supposed to push this rod down as far as it'll go. Okay? Then you pull down this, and you try to match the two up to get it to go in the hole all the way down. Of course, I'm having a little trouble seeing it with my, there we go. There we go. We got the two together. Now, if you can't do that, that means the rod is too short. You need to get a new rod. You should be able to connect the two together once this thing is all the way down. Pull this all the way down and put the two together. This rod right here should be just about horizontal. Let's get the clip on the other side. Alright, the clip is in. Everything's going along fine so far. Let's hope it stays that way. The last thing we have to do is adjust this speed nut on this shaft right here on your kickdown. This is your kickdown limit shaft. I'm sure there's another name for it. Anyway, let's find out where that speed nut is supposed to be, the surface of the speed nut relative to this right here. It's got to go somewhere here. On page 726 in the shop manual, it says right here that from the front of the speed nut to the front of this vertical rod is supposed to be 1 1/4 inches. Now this rod is called the downshift lever rod. There you go. Okay, it's a downshift lever rod. Everything has a name. Everybody's got a title except me. 1 1/4 inches from the speed nut to there. Let's get that thing adjusted. That looks easy enough. There we go. I'd say that looks just about right. 1 1/4 inches. Now I'm going from the metal. And keep in mind that little first line is a little bit off by about 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to be off just a little bit down on this end too. So that's about 1 1/4 inches. Okay folks, if everything is right, as the way it's supposed to be, last time when I moved the throttle rod, I only got like a little bit of throttle. I couldn't get much, and old Brendan, he chimed right in there. Oh, there's something wrong there. I said, well, yeah, I know. Because turned out to be a few adjustments had to be done in the carburetor, and there probably will still be a few adjustments need to be done. But anyway, let's see what we've got now. I think I got it all righteous. Now we still may have to adjust this throttle rod. I'm supposed to have something like, I don't know, 4 1/4 inches of gas pedal from the insulation on the floor to the top of the gas pedal. Well, we don't have any insulation on our floor, so later on I'll probably have to come out and readjust the rod. But for now, we're just going to leave it like it is till we get to the interior of the car. Let's see how much gas pedal we get now. No, okay, yeah, we're doing great. I think we're doing good, and I think that'll make Brendan happy and everybody else happy and the world happy. Okay, let's take a little coffee break. And then we'll go down and see if we can't get that short, rusted piece of gas line off the bottom of the car. One more thing before we do that. I did put a new vacuum line running from, over here at the vacuum line intake, or outgo, I guess, depending on which way you look at it. And I ran it up over the top of these two hoses and down over here to our booster. So that's not going to go anywhere. That's pretty solid. That is going to look a whole lot better once I get it in there, but before I cut it, I'm going to cut it about an inch longer than the one that was originally in there. And I bought this little short piece right here, specifically for this. I figured I'd cut it about somewhere in this area here. But before I do any cutting, I'm going to have to, this right here, that thing right there is all bent up to pieces. I don't know if you can make that out or not. This little lip's going to have to be straightened out. It's all mangled from where it's been hit over the years. We'll straighten that out. And also I have to go to the auto parts store tomorrow anyway, so before I bolt all this back up, I want to spray some of that. I've already wire brushed it down a little bit, got quite a bit of the dirt and stuff off of it. I want to spray it with that de-rusting stuff. We'll get that thing all sprayed up real good. Then we'll go ahead and cut this and screw it in there. But I'll go ahead and leave this like this until I come back from the parts store tomorrow. Tell you what, let's find out if this polyarmor tubing can measure up to its reputation as being easily bendable. We're going to be doing this, like I said, as you saw in the photograph. We're going to have to cut off that flare at this end, and there will be no flare on the other end either, because this end right here goes into a rubber hose, and the other end, where it comes down and goes to the bottom and runs along the side and down into the engine compartment, into the fuel pump, there's a rubber hose on that end too. So we'll be cutting this flare end off here, and I'm not sure how long we're going to go before we cut it again. I'm going to try to make a few bends and see what happens. It'll be a little bit of guesstimate work. We'll use the tape measure and bend it this way and that way, trying to come up with the right amount. But if I'm a little bit short, it won't matter. I'll make sure it's short on the end that goes to the fuel pump. That way we can just make up a couple of inches with the rubber hose. It won't make any difference. So right now, let's get this baby cut off. Our first bend will begin right about where that piece of metal, just about, yeah, right about where that piece of metal overlaps onto this main part, and then it'll go up and then bend across the top of this ledge and out. Let's take a look at that in the car. Okay, that piece of metal that bends right here is right here. So we're going to have to make our first bend. It'll come out of the hose back here. It'll come up until it gets about right there. That's to be the rubber hose. The rubber hose will come out back here, come up to about right here, and then we're going to go straight up and kind of, not a sharp bend, just kind of a curvy bend, and we'll run it along the top of this ledge almost to the other end, but not quite, and then we'll bring it out across here like this. So my job now is to just go ahead and measure where the first bend is going to be, and it will be, I'd say, about, looks like about 4.5 inches to where it has to make another bend and go across this ledge. So let me go ahead and mark it with my big old black marker, my old Sharpie, and we'll get the first bend made and see what that looks like. Well, you know what they say, measure twice, bend once. It's about 4.5 inches. It's not all that critical anyway. Well, let's talk about this polyarmor. Look what's happening here. It's beginning to kink. That is not supposed to happen with polyarmor. No, it is not. Look at that. I went ahead and cut the piece off. We're going to go ahead and try it again. Well, check this out. She's beginning to kink on me again. Oh man, this is the second try on this. I went real slow. I moved it a little bit, bent it, moved it, bent it, like you're supposed to do, you know. Cut it off. Let's try it again. Well, as they say, the third time is a charm. I did exactly the same thing this time, and this time it didn't kink. I got a fairly decent bend out of that, and I started to kink right there just a little bit, so I moved it just enough. We're going to have good fuel flow through there with no problem. Alright, according to my expert calculations, from here to where the next bend is about 8 inches, right about in there. Again, I will measure twice and bend, 14 times. Well, that's it, guys. I'll tell you what, bending 3/8 tubing, whether it's polyarmor or not, is very difficult. It comes down. I'll be able to hook my rubber hose on right here. I had a very slight kink right here, very slight. There's plenty of flow is going to go through it, so it's not severe. Then I came up here and I made this bend a little bit higher than it should be, but I have a solution for all of this stuff, and then I have to clear that hole. I have to clear this big hole right here because this is where the brake line is going to come through and come down. And then I didn't have enough because I trimmed off so much from all the kinks. I'm just going to go ahead and run rubber hose from here on through into the fuel pump. We'll just make it rubber fuel line hose, and I think that's going to have to do because I am tired, it is cold, and I'm worn out. And it is time to head to the house. We'll see you all as soon as I get back from the parts store. Before closing out the video, I have a little detail to take care of. When I put my oil filter mount back on the engine down there, when I removed it in order to get the fuel pump on, when I was sitting at the top of the oil filter mount, there is a oil pressure sensor. There's a yellow wire that goes down to it. It broke off this thing right here. It's pretty mangy anyway, so I went out and bought a new one. I'm going to put this one back on here. I'm going to throw a little bit of heat shrink on there and then stick it back on. It's a silver thing about that big around with a screw sticking up above. It's got a little nut on it. So this will stick down over the screw, and then the nut will go down, and I'll tighten it up, and I'll have my oil pressure sensor hooked up. And all I did was put a little bit of solder on there. I gave it a good tinning. Then of course I tinned the wire as well. I'm going to slide this up in the center, and when I get to 2, I'm going to solder the end of the wire right about there. And the heat shrink goes on first, of course, and I have the heat shrink down here at the bottom. Let me get some clarity here. I have a fatter piece and a smaller piece. The smaller one will slide inside the bigger one, and then we'll shrink it on down with the heat gun. So let's go ahead and get it soldered. Get things soldered here. Well, that's it right there. I went ahead and put a wire tie on it, made it really, really tight so the heat shrink won't come back out. It'll help hold it in there. I imagine in 20 years it'll slip out, but not until. Now all we have to do is crawl back under there and put it over that vertical screw that sticks up from the the top of the oil pressure sensor. And I'm going to go ahead and fasten it on with a lock washer and the 5/16 inch nut. That's what it takes, 5/16. Well, that turned out to be a total bust, as expected. I got my hand down. I had everything all set up. Got the connector on, the washer on, and then I went up in there to get that nut on top, and it fell out of my hand. It's down in there somewhere. Can't find it anywhere. I've told you about this in the past. When they drop, that's it. They stay there forever, or they drop out on the road somewhere. So I'm going to have to get another nut, a 5/16 by standard thread. I'll probably get a couple different sizes, just as far as the thread goes, just to make sure it works. Well, it's the next day, and you come back out and you look at what you did the day before, and I'm not at all satisfied with the way this thing was bent and the way it's been done. However, we're going to live with it for now. At some later date, I'll take off the fender thing here maybe and redo it after we get everything back together here. Our primary goal here is to get the stupid suspension back together. Every time I turn around, there's something getting in the way. We've still got the brake line to put in, so what I'm going to do, something I had planned to do all along anyway, a while back, I bought these rubber lined clamps off of eBay. They're 3/8 inch and they go around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fasten one right up here. You can see what I'm doing. I got a towel in my face here. Anyway, we're going to fasten one right up there and hold it. I have to make enough space right here for the brake line to come through, because it has to come down and follow along, and come down and go into the caliper, or not, into the flex hose rather. So this will go up here and hold this nice and tight against there. I'm going to use these tiny little screws I bought. They're sheet metal type screws with a large washer. They won't make a very big hole at all, just very tiny, but enough to hold it real good. And then we'll probably put another one over here somewhere. I want to put these things where they're not going to interfere with my hand when I reach down inside the engine compartment. I don't want to be stabbing myself with these screws. These things are really sharp on the end, so let me see what I can do with that. Alright folks, that's the best I could do on that. That's nice and secure there. And I had to make a change of plans. I couldn't put it through here. The other side of this little wall here is the steering box. And if I ever have to get down in there, I don't want to be tearing up my hands if I had to get down in there anytime soon. So I moved it way over here and put the screw through there. So it's nice and solid. It's not going to go anywhere. And I think what we'll do is we'll finish all this up all the way to the fuel pump in the next video, and because it is kind of cold out here today. However, we need to take a look and see how our rust preventive stuff did before we wrap this old video up. Let's see how we're doing here. Get the old camera in place and get the light in place all in once. It gets kind of difficult at times. Well, there it is. Well, that looks pretty darn good. That looks pretty darn good. A lot of that brown spot you see, that's just that's primer from the factory. And all that rust that was under there. Okay, now what we're going to do is shoot it with black gloss paint with primer. Doesn't matter whether it's gloss or flat, because I'll be putting undercoating over the top of it. Well, that looks real good. Real good. I got it on both sides, all the way back. And what I'm going to do right now is go in the house. I'm going to get off this cold floor, go in the house and get a cup of coffee. And then this should dry by that time. I'll come back and hit it with undercoating, and we'll be done with that. For those of you who are just now maybe tuning in to the series, or may have forgotten since I used this last, this is my favorite rust treatment. It destroys rust on contact. And now I know there's plenty of others out there, and you all got your favorites. This is mine. This is the one I'm going to be continuing to use. It's a whole lot less hassle to use. It turns rust black, messes it all up, keeps it from coming back. You can paint over the top, and it's easily obtainable by just going down to O'Reilly Auto Parts and picking it up. Good stuff. I highly recommend it. And also, to save a few steps before you actually put your undercoating on, I always like to try to buy paint and primer mixed. Doesn't matter what brand or whatever it is, as long as it'll protect. You don't want to get some, 95-cent can of paint, Get yourself something decent, but try to get paint and primer both. If you're going to put undercoating over the top of it, let it dry, just like I did in the segment underneath the car here. And then we'll come back. I'll show you how to shoot that undercoating on here in a few seconds. Well, she doesn't look exactly like the original, but we do have the rubber hose hooked up now, and put that new line underneath there that one that was rusty. We got rid of it. We got us a nice shiny one here. Let me see. Yeah, that looks a whole lot better back there now. Good connection. All right, all I'm going to do now is go ahead and spray it with undercoating, and I'm also going to put some spray paint over the top of these clamps. These are good American-made clamps. And over the top, I'm going to spray these with some paint too. Make sure, I'm going to do whatever I can to keep corrosion down. So the undercoating I'll be using is this Rust-Oleum stuff. Works pretty good. I got a little handle here that I bought at Walmart to use on there, so I don't have to get that crap all over my hands. I don't mind a little paint in my hands. I just don't like tar and crap like that and undercoating. Well, that's it. She looks real good now, I think. I think it'll last a long time. But like I said, we will finish up from the end of this right here up to here. I think what I'm going to do is put a little short piece of hose there and clamp it down, and then run some metal line and then go underneath here and hook it up to the fuel pump. I think that would be the quick and easy way to do it. She's looking pretty good right now. Meanwhile, I got a package in from FedEx. It is from Summit Racing. Pretty good sized box, actually. Let's get it open and find out what's in there. Well, they sent plenty of advertising with their little package, but this is the item I'm after. This is a brand new proportioning valve. That Ford, that one that was on the Thunderbird, that Ford model, that Hayes, Kelsey, or whatever it was, it's just too old, too unsafe. A lot of you folks recommended that I replace it. Well, that decision, by the time you got in, that decision had already made, and it was already on order. So I appreciate everybody chiming in, though, and saying, yeah, it's no good. It was a piece of crap. I read recently where there were some folks that actually sent theirs off to have them re-sleeved and all that stuff. They paid good money. It came back, and it leaked like crazy. Well, I'm kind of glad I didn't go that route. I went with this one. Let me sit down here, and we'll take a little closer look. For those of you who just joined, again, look at our last video, the one prior to this one. You'll understand what I'm talking about when it comes to proportioning valve. This proportioning valve is the Summit Racing model. It's a Summit Racing brand. All it is a rebranded Willwood, okay? This thing is, you have your out here and your in here, and it comes with brass fittings. I kind of like that. And it's adjustable from 300 psi to 3000 psi. Originally, I had discussed this with Brendan, and he said, I'm not too crazy about these adjustable proportioning valves, but the more we researched it, And the more he researched it, I was already kind of convinced that this is a pretty good little item here, but he kept saying, no, let me do a little more research, and he did, and he finally came back and he said, yep, okay, I've been convinced. This is they've done a lot of improvements over the years, and this is probably a good valve. And though I know that on the Thunderbird forum, and I go there a lot and read a lot of stuff, a lot of good information on that forum. If you're a Thunderbird owner and you're not going to the Thunderbird forum and reading, in your spare time, a lot of the comments, a lot of the postings that people have put up goes back many years, you will be amazed at the information you can learn on a forum, by just spending quite a bit of time taking notes, writing down, what page you might have found this on what particular forum. It could be the 64, 65 forum, the 66 forum, a section of the forum, okay? One of the subscribers and commenters who answered a few of my questions was Redbird64. So apparently he owns the 64 Red Thunderbird. His name is Scott. He was kind enough to give me plenty of answers about this because he has the Willwood version or the Willwood brand. Same thing. And they look the same. They're almost identical in every way except for the name. But he told me he's had his on his. He put a double master cylinder on his Thunderbird, and he's got this thing mounted to the side of it. He said he hasn't had any problem at all. So great. But these things are pretty good. It was only like $39. Of course, the shipping and the tax gets in there, and that runs the price up. But you can't blame Summit for that. I don't mind paying shipping on a good item like this, and I just don't want to. I just don't want to order I don't want to order something like this and have to pay $10 to ship it. I don't like doing that. So we'll cover this in the next video. Now let's talk about something that's been wearing on my mind for quite a while. I get a lot of letters, emails, messages, things like that, and comments even from a lot of subscribers. Okay, and they want to exchange phone numbers, and we can talk about this and talk about that. I can't do it. There's just so many of you, and there's only one of me. I'd never have time to do anything else. By the way, John from Piedmont, Missouri, I got your letter. I want you to know it was a great letter. Thank you very much. Wonderful letter, and it just warms your heart, when you get a letter like that. The phone calls, I just can't get involved in them too much because I wouldn't have time for wife. I wouldn't have time for my life. I wouldn't have time to work on the car. I'd be on the phone all the time, When someone says, well, why don't we have some phone conversations, they're thinking it's one-on-one, but it's not. It's just like hundreds for me, I can't. So, matter of fact, Brendan and I he's been my mentor, electronics, mechanic, plumbing, you name it, air conditioning, for what, 8 years now maybe? We have never had a phone call conversation, never. So that's what I'm saying. I have to restrict it quite a bit. I just can't, And it's probably the same with a lot of other YouTubers. We'd love to. We'd like to be able to just talk all day with everybody, but so don't take this personal. It's just too many of you and not enough of me. That's what it amounts to. So I think what we better do right now is maybe go ahead and wrap this video up, and so I can get it all in the computer. But before I go, I want everybody to know that today's the 5th of November, Tuesday. And on Saturday, I'm going to try to upload this video tomorrow night, which will be Wednesday night. But Saturday, I'm leaving. I'm going out of state until around the 19th of November. I hope to be back on the 19th. I'm going to do a video while I'm gone, and upload it as a mishmash video so everybody knows where I went, what we did. And someone will be watching Wifey while I'm gone. We've got that all arranged. I'll be leaving with my son. We're just going to go somewhere. And hopefully we'll get back into the swing of things. The chances are it won't be until after Thanksgiving, okay? But I will have the mishmash video uploaded within a couple of days after coming back on the 19th. So there won't be any comments answered, there won't be any messages answered, no emails answered, nothing. I'm just going to leave the computer behind and just go enjoy myself, maybe read a book or something, I don't know. go to the store and pick up some car magazines and enjoy reading them. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is John.